Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Hey, is that some Vikings news I see?
Yes. Yes, it is. Good eye, Judd. Good eye.
Mm-hmm. I'm always looking. I'm always looking all around for Vikings news and Wolves news. I love Vikings news.
We all do. We all love Vikings news. Even during the downtime of the offseason here, the calm before the training camp storm, there are Vikings news nuggets floating around the internet. We have a Random Viking of the week today here as well. 2 men in a truck. It's moving season. Mm-hmm. I see moving trucks all over the place in the summer. A lot of 2 men in a truck, too, doing business around, helping people get to their new home decks.
Yeah, I saw one yesterday driving around. Yeah, 2 men in a truck will take care of that move for you. You know, it's hot in summertime. You're trying to figure out who has a truck, who has the thing to move all my stuff. Can I get my parents or my friends? No. You let the experts handle it, man. Don't worry. Don't inconvenience them. No. They will pack up everything. They'll put it in the truck. They'll get it out of the truck safely. They take extra precautions to make sure your stuff is packaged properly and safely. No hidden fees, no service charges. So if you're looking to make that next move, go hit up 2meninatruck.com. Tell them that Purple Daily sent you. They made my move happen. They've made countless of other moves happen. Go contact 2meninatruck.com.
So much Vikings news. This one, actually, the first one, is like latest Vikings news combined with reckless speculation.
Reckless speculation.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here. So this is from ESPN.com via, I would say, friend of the show, Aaron Schatz. It's been a while since we've had Aaron Schatz on the show, but he was the founder, I believe, the founder of Football Outsiders back in the day. So he's one of the more analytically credible football writers and analysts on the market, and he has one final move for each NFL team because there's still some free agents sitting out there. So here he writes about the Vikings. You tell me what you guys think about this. He says the Vikings should sign edge rusher Matthew Judon. So he says the Vikings are set with their starting edge rushers, Jonathan Grenard and Andrew Van Ginkel. They have 2024 first-round pick Dallas Turner waiting in the wings. And then after that, who's the fourth guy? Bo Richter, he says? Well, he's a second-year undrafted free agent who played 29 defensive snaps last season and is probably currently the number 4 edge on the depth chart. That's, in my opinion, that's disrespect to Gabriel Murphy and maybe even Tyler Batty, who's this year's undrafted free agent. So the Vikings could really use a veteran to provide depth and rotate in every so often. Judon had a disappointing 2024 season with just 5.5 sacks for the Falcons. He seems to be on the decline. He turns 33 in August, but he can still get after the passer, and some reps as a backup might really rejuvenate his career.
So he's still on the couch right now. I could see that being one where teams go into training camp. And look, a guy like Judon who just pins his ears back and rushes the QB probably doesn't need lots of time of schematic catch-up. So wouldn't it make more sense to, if you're him and if you're a team, go into training camp, observe your depth, possibly a guy gets hurt, and then sign him? I just don't know. We've gotten to a point now, and by the way, congratulations, it's July 1st. Training camp opens this month. Like, we've gotten there. But with that being said, I just don't know now that you are, at this late date, going to add guys in July before, to what you just said, Phil, which is Gabe Murphy deserves a look. Mm-hmm. Matthew Judon's going to clog that up. Now, if somebody gets hurt, it changes things. If somebody looks really bad, it changes things. So to me, a move like that, much like the cornerback thing now, like I've convinced myself if they are going to do a cornerback move, it's going to be a Stephon Gilmore-like move with a guy who's presently not employed, but I don't think they're going to do it before camp starts. I would put this in the same bin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's a lot like You can never have too many edge rushers and pass rushers. It's a premium position, so I'm not against adding someone like Judon just to have as many options as possible to rush the quarterback. I think what I don't want to have happen, and obviously they're going to evaluate here in training camp and figure out who they have, what they like, what they don't like. I don't want a situation where Matthew Judon is getting more playing time than Dallas Turner. I don't want that roadblock to be in front of Turner. So they'll obviously assess that on their own. I guess if that does happen, like if Judon is brought in here, is that a ding on Dallas Turner? Is that a ding on the development? So that's also, there's like a whole ripple effect there. But I'm not against adding it, but I'd rather have Dallas Turner eat up some of those snaps and minutes.
Yeah, and I think they would almost be like the second line of, like, if it's like hockey or whatever. You got your first line edge rushers in Andrew Van Ginkel and Jonathan Grenard, and last year your second line, quote unquote, included Patrick Jones, and Patrick Jones racked up some sacks, but the pressure numbers were not great or worth paying him a bunch of money. So I think it would be like Judon and Dallas Turner maybe playing with each other as the second wave that would come in to spell the starters. I'm with Declan. I think it would be an interesting referendum potentially on Dallas Turner if they felt compelled to bring in what was once one of the top 8 to 10 pass rushers in the league. I mean, between 2021 and 22, which I get it's ancient history now 3 years later, he had 30 combined sacks over 2 years with the Patriots and 130 pressures or something over 2 years. But he only had 25 pressures all season last year in Atlanta. He was a big disappointment. They thought they were going to get more out of him. But I'm kind of if you would have asked me a couple weeks ago, I would have said, no, man, Gabriel Murphy was running with the ones in training camp last year. Bo Richter showed some signs, and now is another year in. I would just have the young, fresh crop of undrafted guys come in and see what they can do. But you're also potentially trying to compete for a Super Bowl this year. So if you go into the season with essentially no experience or credible edge rushers behind your two starters, are you really a serious Super Bowl contender? Now, they do have more in the middle with Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave than they did. So they overall, they have more credible pass rushers up front. But at that edge position, I'm coming around to the idea of you got cap space. It's not like it's not gonna be a multi-year contract. It'd be like a 1-year flyer on a guy. So I think I'm warmed up to this idea from Aaron Schatz, Matthew Judon.
And I appreciate the recklessness of the speculation at this late date. I think it's awesome, but I think it would be more of a move. Look, if they're not going to address more cornerback depth yet, I think we are talking about training camp moves. And if a guy, again, doesn't look good, or if a guy gets hurt. And on Turner, I think he's going to have a big year. I really do. I think he was brought along slowly, and we all assume, of course, from the outside, well, he didn't pan out. He's a potential flop, right? Because he didn't step in and play. I am looking for Dallas Turner in multiple ways, though, to have a big year. And so I don't think this would have to do with that concern. They might want to add depth, but guys like this, they've always existed, right? And they're always around, and they're coming off bad years, and they'd like to get back in, but teams are sort of set now. So to me, this is a wait and see. The one thing that does concern me on the health is the fact that if you go back a couple of years still, the fact that Van Ginkel had that Liz Frank fracture in the foot, that's a really bad thing to have, especially for a guy in his position. So that's my point of interest is, can he stay as healthy this coming season as he did a year ago, which I was really pleasantly surprised by.
Yeah, you're in a weird spot because you actually love your pass rush. Mm-hmm. You love your starters at all these positions. Grenard, Van Ginkel, Jonathan Allen, Hargrave, those four guys kind of across your pass rush. That's probably top 6 or 7 in the league in terms of just personnel.
Yeah.
But the drop off after those four guys at those positions is really steep. So you're banking a lot on hope.
Yes. So if we were to do an impromptu rank 'em right now, depth concerns. If you could wave a wand right now and magically add depth to a place, or you are slightly concerned about the present depth, I actually think the edge would be at least third on my defensive list. Defensive tackle, I'm curious about, because there is a very, I mean, unfortunately, there is a very good chance that either Allen or Hargrave miss time, right? So behind them, I think you have guys slotting in really well right now as depth guys, but my question is, could you step in then and start if one of those two, or God forbid both, go down? So defensive tackle, I'm more concerned about. Cornerback, I'm still very curious about. And then I would say the edge would be my third, like, concern defensively.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up cornerback, by the way, Sports Dad.
That's what I do.
Latest Vikings news. Also from ESPN.com, they have an article entitled Biggest Surprise Player on Each Team. So who's going to pop up and surprise and elevate their performance? And the listed candidate here for the Vikings is cornerback Isaiah Rodgers, who we've had a lot of conversations about him, and they brought him in for like $7 or $8 million, way below market value for a top starting high-end cornerback established. I mean, Byron Murphy, $20 million a year, whatever that is. But they think he can be a starter, like an every snap starter. And here's what ESPN wrote about him. Rodgers demonstrated why the Vikings pegged him as a likely starter despite a relatively obscure career since the Colts selected him in the 6th round of the 2020 draft. Rodgers displayed playmaking ability, jumping an out route and intercepting quarterback J.J. McCarthy. Was that during one of the – Seifert wrote this, during one of the mini camps I think he's referring to? While also showing speed as a kickoff returner. It's not clear whether the Vikings will use him as a returner given the heavy workload he's expected to face as a starting cornerback. But he has a big fan in defensive coordinator Brian Flores, who said he's been tracking Rodgers since he played at Massachusetts in college. He's been a great addition, Flores said. He's got a great football IQ and acumen. Also worth noting, by the way, Jalen Ramsey winds up with the Steelers yesterday. So there's been some opportunities for the Vikings to either make a trade or maybe sign someone else in free agency. And every step of the way since March, they have said with their actions, Byron Murphy Jr. and Isaiah Rodgers are our two guys here. And then we're going to let some younger guys sort of battle it out for the nickel role.
I think Rodgers excelling would be a surprise to the public. I think internally it's their expectation. So they didn't sign him like, let's take a flyer. I mean, Brian Flores has, in the last 2 free agency periods, pushed for certain guys. And a year ago, he pushed for certain guys, and guess what? They were really damn good. Blake Cashman, who Flores was said, hey, this guy would fit your system. So Flores watched film on Blake Cashman and was like, oh, yeah, he does. He comes in. He's really good. So I would say that while I agree with Seifert's assessment that this could be a pop-up player, a surprise player as far as what he can do as a regular starter cornerback is true from the outside world, I would say that internally that would not be the case as far as surprising. I think it's their expectation. I think the expectation is that Rodgers is going to start opposite Murphy at cornerback in the base defense. It'll be interesting to see who the third guy is. It might be Blackman in the offseason workouts. Jeff Okudah played a ton there. Yeah, so, but that's going to be my surprise at cornerback would probably be that, which is if Okudah plays and plays well, that to me, for a guy that was the 3rd pick in 2020, his career has definitely been affected by injuries and the fact that, as we've discussed a lot, his coverage statistics aren't good. He would be the surprise if he actually does fit in as the 3rd corner, because that would mean he would play a ton.
Okay, I'm gonna hypothesize here, and this is wild speculation, but people once said that the idea of Sam Darnold throwing for 35 touchdowns and getting MVP votes would be wild, reckless speculation too. But just for fun, let's say Jeff Okudah goes through Brian Flores' defensive back rehabilitation school, and he becomes a 900, 1,000 snap guy, like a full season starter, or maybe even maybe he's the 3rd guy, and they're using nickel like 2/3 of the time, but he plays like a huge chunk of snaps, and he's awesome finally for the first time in his career. What would be, first of all, you get some compensatory pick love if you went and signed somewhere else, which would be interesting. What would be the better reclamation project, though? Sam Darnold and the season he had, or if Jeff Okudah has the equivalent on the defensive side under Brian Flores this year.
It's definitely still Darnold. Like Darnold would still be the more impressive one. I saw I didn't clip it for this, but Mina Kimes and forget who it was.
Lenny her dog?
Not Lenny the dog. Who's on ESPN NFL Countdown a lot? Ryan Clark. So it was Ryan Clark and Mina Kimes, and they were on yesterday talking about power. They kind of like did the power rankings basically of all the NFL teams heading into July, and they had the Vikings, I think, at 14. But also because of J.J. McCarthy and uncertainty there. But they also talked a lot about, with Brian Flores' defense, if Brian Flores is gonna stop dialing up so many crazy blitzes from different positions and just allowing, maybe this goes back to Judon, this is where it also fits, just true pass rushers getting after the quarterback because of their cornerback room also having some significant uncertainty there. So that's also really curious because, I mean, Flores loves to throw the GD house at quarterbacks, right? But does he change that up a little bit and then also still be very effective at rushing from his true pass rushers while still maintaining, one of the 5 to 10 best defenses in the NFL?
So here's the slippery slope there, because I think that's the assumption. And yes, I do think he dials down the blitz rate for sure. Now, two years ago, if I remember, it was absolutely crazy through the roof. I think it declined, but it's still, I believe that the Vikings still led the league at the end of the day in 2024, if I'm not mistaken, in blitz rate. But
they did. Just under 40% blitz rate, by the way.
But here's the slippery slope for opponents, not for the Vikings. This is for the opponents. So Green Bay Packers, if you're watching this, be careful. Brian Flores, every offseason, because these guys have no life, he's well aware that opposing offensive people are going to watch his film, right? And they're trying to A, glean what he did, and B, glean what they can steal. But most importantly, you have to come back with different ideas and packages. So while, yes, in a perfect world, they don't have to blitz as much, because I think that is seen as, oh my God, they have to blitz because they can't get a rush. And definitely the two inside guys should help. I will say I do expect more and different looks as well. So I don't think it's as simple as, well, can you just play sort of your base philosophy more? Because it's in 2025, playing your base philosophy on defense is going to get you beat. You've got to come up with different looks. On Monday night, September, I believe it's 7th, in Soldier Field, you're going to want to give the Bears looks that they couldn't have pre-scouted and things like that. So yes, I would like to see them not blitz as much, but do I think they're going to be equally as innovative as they've been in Flores' first 2 seasons? That to me is their bread and butter.
Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, you would blitz. You can't just never blitz, because you have to throw some different looks, and just the quarterback has to be able to, like, you have to make the quarterback think twice once in a while, right? But in a perfect world, you wouldn't be blitzing 40% of the time, because the problem is on the back of that, as you saw with seasoned pocket passer quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff, who beat you twice each last year. I'm going to throw this statistical nugget at you guys. You tend to allow a lot of open space if the offensive line can pick up the blitz, and or if the quarterback can identify it and get rid of the ball. So one of the consequences of the Vikings blitzing almost 40% of the time is they gave up the second most air yards on completions of any defense in the NFL. Because, okay, instead of sending 4 or 3 and dropping guys into coverage, we're sending 5 and 6 or maybe even 7. And now there's wide open space behind those pass rushers. If you can just get the ball out, it could be a crossing route, it could be a deep pass. So that was one of the big consequences is, all right, they did generate a high pressure rate. They did generate a top 5 scoring defense, and those things are great. But they got hit, especially against those two teams, with a lot of big chunk 12, 15, 20-yard plays that led to, scoring position or first downs.
Yes.
So this is all I'm sure we're having like the checkers version of this conversation here on Purple Daily. They're probably having more of a rocket science version of this conversation, but it is a thing.
But it's team and QB specific too, right? Like if you are facing Matthew Stafford, he's going to see your flaws. He's going to see your trickery, and which, by the way, with a young QB could cause massive problems.
Yeah.
And he's going to deduce it quickly. I also think there's a conversation here. I love this. I also think there's a conversation to be had about the personnel as well. So, for instance, part of the problem, and yes, blitzing creates open receivers. I get that. But part of the problem, too, is, and you have to wonder if they're going to tweak this, is just for instance, Ivan Pace Jr. stinks in coverage. Great against the run. He definitely has a role, right? But can you come up with ways at times more often to get him off the field? Because when he's on the field in specific passing situations, he's going to be picked on. So, like, that's my question is, how do you come up? Because it's not just the cornerbacks. Yes, they play a massive role. But it's not just them. It's also, your linebackers. Blake Cashman, very good against the pass, as I recall. So, like, that's the other, like, nuances here. And teams know that when Pace is out there, he is in the passing game a sitting duck. So how do you tweak that? How do you change that? How do I show you looks where you say, "Oh my God, what we thought was going to be there because this guy stinks in pass coverage is now taken away because because you've either come up with a flat out different look for that, or he's not on the field as much," which, by the way, might not be a terrible thing.
Yeah, look at that. See. ESPN says Isaiah Rodgers is going to be a surprise player, and the path led us down a football discussion into blitz rates and everything.
Question then, who do you guys think? So if you were to pick a surprise player, so like a surprise, who would you guys pick? Like who comes
surprise
to
within the context of. Yeah, you're right. Like nationally, Isaiah Rodgers would be a surprise. Like, oh, this guy was like a part-time player,
and that's what Seiferd's drilling down on.
Locally here, with the benefit of Judd's camp notes, already sniffing out some of the. I mean, Jeff Okudah would still qualify.
I agree,
because even though we're kind of sniffing around it, the fact that he's been such a bust to this point in his career, it would be at minimum mildly surprising if he became this incredible piece. But then again, like we saw it happen on the offensive side with another number 3 overall pick in Sam Darnold last year. So outside of Jeff Okudah, I would say like Ty Felton, even though we're kind of sniffing around that one too.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, but if Ty Felton contributes offensively, that would be a surprise for sure. I mean, I'll go back to my guy who I always talk about, Theo Jackson.
Is that a surprise at this point, though?
We're not talking about him much. I feel like it is because I don't think there's an expectation. Like it feels like it's just assumed he'll step in and be okay. I think he's going to have a good year. But yeah, I'm trying to drill down on guys who like we talk about because we essentially discussed the entire roster, but we don't necessarily expect big things from. I mean, heck, Phil, your guy from a year ago now, Gabe Murphy.
Gabe Murphy.
Why couldn't he fit in?
He would not be a surprise to Phil's camp notes, but
Correct.
Maybe to America, Gabriel Murphy.
Gabe
would
Murphy
be a surprise.
contributes though. Like I think Vikings fans are going to be like, "Whoa,
yeah,
didn't see that coming."
Okay, this next item comes with a visual here.
Latest Vikings news.
You know, if you guys can see this, I'll let Dex pop this up here on the screen. So it's funny because it's not like current news, but CBS Sports put out this social media graphic for the video audience here on YouTube. By the way, click that like button, that subscribe button if you enjoy Purple Daily on YouTube. And then on the audio side, you can help us on Apple and Spotify by giving us a 5-star rating and a positive review. We appreciate all of you. I don't know, CBS Sports, it's a dead time of the summer, so they're just putting out like evergreen graphics. And this one hit their Twitter feed yesterday. Highest franchise winning percentages in the Super Bowl era.
You brought this up before too.
And they've updated it again.
I know.
So this is crazy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 13 teams on this graphic. And the first section is great for the Vikings, right? The Vikings have the 4th highest winning percentage of any franchise in the history of the NFL in the Super Bowl era. Dallas, number 1, still feasting off of the 70s and the 90s. They also had a nice little run of 12-win seasons with Mike McCarthy. But Dallas, number 1.
Yep.
Pittsburgh, number 2. Baltimore, number 3. The Vikings. And then everyone else in the NFL, historically, is behind them in winning percentage. Packers, Chiefs, Dolphins, Patriots, Niners, Broncos, Raiders, Eagles, Rams. The problem is the second column here, where literally all of the other 12 teams on this graphic have not one Super Bowl, but multiple Super Bowls. The Rams, the Eagles, the Dolphins, and the Ravens are all with 2 Super Bowls, and then you can see the hardware for all these other teams if you're watching on YouTube here. The Vikings are the only team on this list, top 13 winning percentages in Super Bowl era, that don't have multiple Super Bowl championships, let alone even one. It's just crazy every time you see an updated graphic like this.
Yeah, it's galling. I will say this, though, because I think I see what they're doing. I think that the Ravens is cheating. Because they were the Cleveland Browns, and then they're like, okay, we're gonna leave the Cleveland history for the new Browns,
yeah.
and we're only gonna take the Baltimore time.
But Judd, here's the sad part. Even if you saddle them with Cleveland Browns history, and there's a lot of dark years, although they would get like the 80s, they won some games in the 80s.
Yes.
There's a lot of dark years. So they'd slide down the winning percentage list here, but they would still keep those 2 Super Bowls.
I know. I know. It's remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable and galling. And then what's really galling is the Vikings have been to 4 Super Bowls, but none since January of 77.
Yeah.
Like they haven't even been there in the lifetime of, I would guess, the majority of the people who watch this show.
And the Raiders, it's kind of crazy. The Raiders are like 11th on this list winning percentage, and their Super Bowls all came 1984 and earlier, or 83. I think they won one in like the mid 80s and then 2 in the 70s. But the Raiders have been absolute garbage for the better part of 20 years. But because they stocked up so many wins in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, in that little run they had with Gruden in the early 2000s, they remain like 11th on the win percentage list.
Do we know, we probably don't, but do we know where the Buffalo Bills are as far as the win percentage goes?
I don't. I mean,
I'd be curious.
They cut this off at Rams. They got to be close though, right?
I would like to see them just to have a fellow miserable fan base of no Super Bowl, no Lombardis.
Yeah, I don't know for sure. They can't be, because the Bills had a dark run there. It was like 2 decades with no playoff appearances, but they were really good. Obviously, in like the 80s, 90s, like late 80s into the early 90s, even throughout the 90s, they were a winning team throughout. Like 1999. 99 was the year they were in the playoffs, and it was the Music City Miracle game.
Yes.
That launched the Titans to a Super Bowl run. But yeah, it's not just one before we die at this point. It's like you look at this list, and it should literally be, they should have at minimum 2 Super Bowls based on all the other teams in the top 12 or 13 in winning percentage.
Yeah, it's very painful.
So, anyways.
I don't have a lot to add because it's very painful. We're good. Let's put that. Yeah, let's get that graphic off the screen. Thank you.
Let's talk about fireworks. Let's talk about fireworks, actually, as a distraction here before we get to a random Viking of the week.
More boom for less bucks with our friends at Fireworks Forever. So if you haven't stocked up yet for the 4th of July, you should go check out Fireworks Forever. They have 2 locations, one in Somerset, one in St. Croix Falls. They have low prices. They also, if you go to their website, they have coupons, and you can see full pricing information. Plus, every time you go into the store and you see one of those fireworks, there's a QR code on each one to show you exactly what it looks like. Go to fireworksforever.com again to see all the listing of pricing and coupons and full inventory at both locations. Tell them that Purple Daily and we sent you. Go check out Fireworks Forever. More boom for less bucks.
MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning also powering latest Vikings news today, Judd.
Let's talk about trust. Trust that your home is going to be safe and sound and also, very importantly, comfortable, right? Because it's July 1st, and I've been looking at what the temps are coming up, and I'm going to tell you right now, hot and sticky doesn't begin to describe it, and that's where the folks at MSP come in. We've already had a couple of bouts of hot, sticky weather, MSP is going to make sure that your air conditioning is operating efficiently. Air conditioning in the summer, heating in the winter, plumbing all the time. Guess who's got your back? That's right, our friends at MSP. They do a fantastic work. I've been telling you now for a while. Sports Dad allowed them into his house not once but twice. And you know what? Both times, Sports Dad incredibly satisfied by the fantastic work done by these folks. 651-615-4292. Call MSP.com. Call MSP.com. Make sure that AC is working at max capacity.
The Random Viking of the Week is going to be working at max capacity here. Judd finally snapped my 7-game win streak last week by correctly guessing Wade Wilson. Before that, Bobby Wade, E.J. Henderson, Matt Asiata, Mike Tice, Kelly Holcomb, Cedric Griffin, Toby Gerhart were the Random Vikings. So we reset this a few months ago after we did Random Viking for the first time back in like 2021. It was a 3-year run, and we exhausted like 150 Vikings or something. And we just, I don't know, I think we were kind of running out of steam with relevant players that people would, like, when you're throwing out like backup guards, it just got a little dicey. So we decided, let's give the segment a pause. We'll bring it back at some point. We'll reset, blank canvas. And so that's where we are now. But I hold a 7-1 lead on Judd. Declan looking for his first win in the new era of the Random Viking. Dex, how do you feel today? Are you ready to capture your first win?
I think so. I feel pretty good. I feel pretty good about it.
Okay. I feel like Dex can get this one. I feel like Dex can get this one, which is a clue in itself.
Okay.
Because if it was like a player from the 70s,
you know what? That's fine. I got no friends. No friends. This game has no friends. I'll operate as a one-man entity working for myself.
Lone Wolf Judd. So all throughout the clues, you guys get up to 3 incorrect guesses each. If one of you hits a third incorrect guess, the other one wins automatically. Here we go. This Random Viking never won a Super Bowl. Never won a Super Bowl.
So he spent his entire career as a Viking. Wow.
I'll tell you, he did not spend his entire career as a Viking. So he did have a chance outside of the Vikings to win a Super Bowl.
I'd like to apologize for that. That was unnecessary.
I'm trying to think of if he was part of any of those teams on that list. I'd have to pop the list back up. He didn't play for the Ravens, I can tell you that. And he didn't play for the Cowboys.
Okay.
I'd have to look at the rest of the list.
Okay.
Even though he didn't win a Super Bowl, he was a champion. He was a state high school football champion.
Good for him.
Mm-hmm.
Parents were proud, I hope.
So he's done a bunch of media in his post-playing days. I did not know that he did this, though. A couple years ago, he joined Outkick, the platform Outkick. I don't know if that show or podcast or whatever it is still happening. But
Outkick is still a site, yeah.
Yeah.
Is he still?
I know Outkick is still a big platform. I don't know. What I'm saying is I don't know if he
is
still part of that platform.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't consume a ton of their stuff, but I see it on Twitter clips occasionally.
Yeah. So maybe you saw a clip of this.
Dan Dockich.
Old Danny Dockich. Just spewing takes. Let's see here. This Random Viking played for 3 NFL head coaches.
Okay.
And I will sprinkle those coaches in throughout this exercise. Instead of giving them all to you at once, I'm going to give you little morsels here.
Oh, God. Okay.
Mike Shanahan was one of them. Old Mike Shanahan. Those white teeth. That red face.
Okay, I got to think of what context this would be as far as his coaching career would go.
This Random Viking once played on a team that beat the Vikings in a playoff game.
Mike Shanahan.
Look at Judd.
Well, I'm trying to. I'm going through the rosters of those teams. Someone's on a team that beat the Vikings in a playoff game.
Mm-hmm. This Random Viking, 6-time Pro Bowler.
Whoa.
6-time Pro Bowler.
6-time Pro Pro Bowler. Mike Shanahan. Outkick.
All right. Maybe some of these clues will spur some more thoughts for you guys.
I don't know if this guy made. I've got a guess, but I don't know if this guy made 6 Pro Bowls.
You firing a guess here?
No.
Okay.
I'm gonna wait.
This random Viking was traded twice.
Like in his career.
Mm-hmm. This random Viking had 24 career fumble recoveries.
That's a holy cow.
This random Viking
No. Okay.
also averaged over 5 yards per carry in his career. This random Viking, these were not head coaches of his, but they were coaches of his. Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan.
Is this Kirk Cousins?
He's never been traded, right?
I don't think so, but
Not yet.
6-time Pro Bowl. So this is a really good player. Averaged 5 yards per carry. I feel like you're throwing us off with that one. 24 career fumble recoveries.
no, Kirk Cousins has not worked for Outkick. Not yet. Oh,
This random Viking played 167 career NFL games.
oh.
Okay. So
And let's just say
I think I got this. Yeah.
let's just say it's possible that the seat was still warm when Kirk Cousins arrived to the NFL.
Arrived to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Is this oh boy. Wait. When Kirk Cousins arrived. No. That wouldn't be him. That's too far away.
I don't really know what that means.
It's very possible, just to rephrase that, that Kirk Cousins sat in the same seat in the same meeting room that this man sat in the year before Kirk Cousins arrived to the NFL.
No, this guy had a Super Bowl.
There might have been a 2-year gap. But Kirk Cousins and this player did play for the same team, but just a year or two apart.
Which is the Shanahan connection.
Mm-hmm. He played in 16 career playoff games.
Is this Jeff George?
That's a fun guess because Jeff George was definitely still trying to be in the NFL around
he
that
wouldn't
time.
go away. So
you guys both had one incorrect guess, right?
16 playoff games?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This guy is not the name I'm thinking of now is not a 6-time Pro Bowl player.
Oh. You could float the name as a non-guess and see what my reaction is. But then Declan could swipe in and just throw it out there as an official guess, and then you'd be screwed.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
16 playoff games.
Yeah, this random Viking, the Vikings were the last team he ever played for in the NFL.
Wouldn't be him.
Who the hell is this?
I love Random Viking so much.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's such a great little segment. Yeah. He's got 100,000 followers on the gram.
Wow.
Pretty active on the gram.
Wowza.
Played
No, the guy didn't make
high school basketball with Antoine Walker. I didn't know that. You guys remember Antoine Walker?
Yeah.
Who also
Celtics, right?
played for the Timberwolves. In fact, were they in town together? No. Well, no, they missed each other by like 2 years in Minnesota. But Antoine Walker also finished his career in Minnesota after playing most of his career in one location, which is the same case for this random Viking.
Hold on. So this is.
There was at least one of his former teammates that was a bit of a malcontent, and they were caught chirping at each other on the sidelines in high-profile situations. But it's a good thing they had a level-headed, legendary head coach to help calm the waters. I'll give you. I think this next clue, like,
Is this? Wait, I'll take another guess.
Okay.
But I don't think he worked for Outkick. But hold on a second. Wait. Just give me 1 second on the head coaches. He played for. No. Too many.
Okay.
No guess. Keep going.
Again, Shanahan and McVay were not his head coaches. Just to be clear, the only head coach I've given you is Mike Shanahan.
Mike Shanahan. Yeah. Yep. That's the one I was taking.
Yep. For the Vikings, he played for Leslie Frazier.
McNabb? Donovan McNabb?
Oh, it's Don McNabb. There you go.
There it is.
Good God.
Back-to-back wins for the sports dad.
Donovan McNabb.
Declan remains winless in the new iteration.
Shouldn't have taken me that.
Donovan McNabb, dude.
I was racking my brain trying to think of quarterbacks.
So, yeah, it was because Kirk came in also under like the Shanahans, McVay, and then Kevin O'Connell came around. And so Donovan's last year in Washington was 2010, then 11 with the Vikings. Kirk came into the league in 2011 or 12 with Washington. So they almost connected Kirk and Donovan McNabb in Washington, but old Mike Shanahan. Yeah, he's also, here's the clue I was going to give you that I think was going to draw out the guess, that he's tied with Jim Kelly for the most postseason wins by a quarterback whose team did not ever win a Super Bowl. 9 postseason wins, no Super Bowl championships.
Oh, yeah.
16 playoff games, no Super Bowl championships.
Oh, wow.
Crazy. They also made that run in 08 when they beat the Vikings.
Yep.
They went to the NFC Championship game again because they had went to 4 straight early in his career. And then they went back again in 2008, and they lost to the Cardinals in the NFC Championship game. Cardinals went on to play the Steelers, and that was a legendary Super Bowl.
I just remember seeing him in fact, I think Frazier's first game after Childress got fired was in Washington against McNabb, and he looked so cooked.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the Vikings acquired him.
Yeah, and he was definitely cooked.
Well, yeah,
Definitely.
yes, partially because he enjoyed cooking so much.
He did.
And I don't mean his own cooking. I mean anyone else's cooking.
So congrats to Judd. Declan dishing the clues again next week as he goes back and studies the film, reevaluates strategy here. Tomorrow, write that down, predictions on Purple Daily, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. See you guys.